All right, I just started the YouTube stream, and I guess I'll start the TikTok live now. First, I think I need to get the charger out. So instead. All right, I don't. Should I be a Trump supporter? What's the politics of today? What am I going to be today? Yikes! I'm going to be neutral. How about that? I have the Monsters University hat on, so now I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I'm just like an, an objective observer, so nobody can like come at me. Actually, goodness gracious, dude, this hat is like actually terrible. Screen share. Okay, hold on. Somebody's trying to request stuff. Hold on. Sup, Killian?
Yo, it's Krakalak and Broski, Bruskayevsky, Brokowski.
What's
Imagine
your
if you haven't met the
age?
Broskis.
What's your
Man,
age
I'm
for
unk
TikTok
status, bro.
purposes?
Unk status. Over 18 for sure, though. Faux show.
I had a
Over
feeling.
18.
All right, what do you
Yeah,
want to
man.
talk about?
Yeah, dude, let's hit the abortion topic. Let's talk about abortion. Let's talk about a B baby. Let's talk about you and me. No, just messing around.
You are very energetic. I don't know
Yeah,
what
man,
you've
too much
got going,
coffee.
but you're happy.
Too much coffee, man. Too much
Okay.
coffee. No big D. Anyways, yeah, dude, why, you're pro-life, I take it?
I'll be whatever you aren't. I'll disagree with it, whatever you support.
Oh, dude. Okay. Well, flip a coin, man, because I argue both sides. I'm about to get educated.
I guess I'll be pro-choice right now. Usually, I've debated pro-life a lot, so I'll be pro-choice.
You want to give the argument, or you want me to give you my defense of pro-life?
You can give your defense on pro-life, and then I'll attack it.
Yeah, I mean, at the point of conception, there's going to be a functional unity that creates a trajectory towards future valuable experiences. That this best explains why we seem to value human life. And if you put that being in a state of dependency, you should be obligated to it, just like you would any other human being. What is your contention with that informal argument?
Wait, so hold on. The future possibility of a human being that's being created is what we value?
No, a human being is already there, and it already has a trajectory
Okay.
towards future valuable experiences.
Well, so would sperm, though, in that circumstance, it would have a future projection toward human life. So should we value
It
sperm
wouldn't.
instead? It
Yeah,
would,
sperm
though.
doesn't have that. It wouldn't, yeah. Do you understand what a functional unity means when genetic materials fuses?
Well, yeah, I understand that there's a genetic confusion, but your argument is that there's a future projection towards human life, or I guess
By
in the
virtue of that functional unity, yeah, and the sperm doesn't have that, so that argument fails. What else you got?
How would it not? How would it fail though? How would it not
It doesn't
have
have
that?
a
It
functional
does.
unity. Yeah, a sperm doesn't develop. Like a sperm has no development. It has to have that genetic fusing, and then it ceases to exist, and a zygote is created. So, by very definition, a zygote is not a sperm. A zygote is the one that has the functional unity, that has a trajectory towards future valuable experiences. A sperm or an egg on its own has none of that.
So it'd be about future valuable experiences. Okay, so I guess I'd go away with like the
Correct.
vegetable arguments. They can't argue about vegetables. So,
Those
uh,
don't have future valuable experiences.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
That also is out.
So then I guess then I would say, why do you value that person or that human being?
Yeah, because this best explains, for example, why we would value, let's say, a hypothetical where you have like a much more sentient pig with much more active experiences versus a comatose infant. It seems like our intuitions would select the infant. Likewise, if we have a sentient newborn that has 1 minute left to live versus a non sentient newborn that has a lifetime left to live, we would pick to save the non sentient newborn. All these things satisfy the intuitive impulse, and the thing that best explains them seems to be future valuable experiences that are grounded in a trajectory.
So what about in a situation in which we know the fetus would end up dying? Let's say like a year after birth. Should we then value that fetus?
Yeah, I mean, this by the same logic. If you know that like
Hold
there's
on.
some background
Yeah, yeah.
speech. Yeah,
Let me mute it real
no worries,
quick.
bro. Yeah, by the same logic, I
All right.
mean that might change the calculus in some sense if you're comparing it with something else, like saving something else, but it wouldn't justify, let's say, an infant that has a disease and all of a sudden the doctor comes and says, "Well, it's expected to live, only another year." You wouldn't say, "Yeah, go ahead and chuck it in the trash." You'd still have an obligation to it by virtue of that expectation and also by virtue of it having the human body in the human form that has a secondary reason for why we, let's say, prohibit necrophilia or safeguard the human body in the human form because we want to encourage people not to denigrate it, right? The same reason why we would prohibit child corn AI or tattooing somebody or tattooing yourself with child corn.
So then I would ask, okay, let's paint another situation. Same situation, except the life expectancy isn't 1 year. Let's say it's one week. Should abortion then be legal in that situation?
I mean, you might hit a certain threshold where, like, let's say let's say hypothetically, it only has like a zeptosecond of experiences, and then it will perish. Well, we might say that like that is obviously a life that nobody would really like value because a zeptosecond of experiences seems pretty low. So in that case, given the effects obviously that are still present in pregnancy, that might actually justify terminating at that point because it seems like the valuation there is so abysmally low. We probably wouldn't, And as far as like where to draw that line, a week, a month, a year, that might be something we can consider and talk about where the appropriate line is. But in the typical case of abortion, right, that's simply not present. Like it's a healthy pregnancy, it's a healthy mother, and there's an expectation of a average lifetime for the unborn.
All right, so I guess when I'm talking about considering abortion, whether or not it should be legal, I think that we need to compare the two experiences from both perspectives. So let's say that there's a fetus that hasn't developed any feeling yet. Let's say that the fetus is going to be three weeks old, 4 weeks old. They don't have the ability to feel anything compared to the woman who's going to get very, very sick. We know she's going to get very, very sick. She will actually feel the pain. She will eventually give birth without dying or without unaliving, right? So in that circumstance, when one will feel a lot more pain than the other, in that circumstance, do you think abortion should be legal?
Yeah, that would also be like a distinction from like the typical pregnancy, right? I mean, I'll address that, but just like to highlight, like the typical pregnancy, we understand people actively enter into that and repeatedly enter into that. So we can make like an inductive case that this is something within a reasonability threshold that most people, or rather a lot of people would bear. And by virtue of us having similar physicality, we can expect somebody else to bear. But let's set that aside and address your particular hypothetical, right? Where there's going to be some extreme degree of pain. Like I can give you a scenario where you're in a cabin in the woods and the only way to provide for the newborn is to go out and fight a bear and milk a bear, where you would be permanently maimed and crippled, excuse my politically incorrect statement of crippled. And now you can provide for the infant, right? Well, in that case, we probably would say you don't have an obligation because the severity of burden that you carry would be so extreme, right? That you would not be obligated to endure that, even though it will result in the unalivement of the infant. So in the typical case of pregnancy, we don't have that. So that's why we have the obligation. Now, if you stipulate that there's going to be some insane burden or very severe burden, even if you stipulate that there's not an experience from the fetus yet, because you can just equate that with the infant who's comatose. The infant who's comatose isn't experiencing, but they can, let's say, reflexively suckle and be nursed. That would still be an obligation where you would have to provide them with nutrients because they would recover and they would have future valuable experiences. So in that case, you would still be obligated unless it crosses some threshold of burden, which we can, talk about what that threshold should be, but it doesn't seem to be present in the typical pregnancy scenario.
Well, I mean, one can argue that the person or the woman that is pregnant in that circumstance does go through a lot more pain and a lot more suffering than the fetus that does if we do abort the fetus. So, like, for example, like a woman on average, most women will end up getting, either sick or they'll go through some very miserable experiences, even though it is part of a natural sequence. It's something that all humans have gone through. Like, we're half of the population has gone through at some point in their life. So when these women, sure, it's a natural thing, but when they're pregnant, they are going through a lot more than the fetus would. So when the fetus is, unalive, let's say before, I don't know when they exactly start to feel, but like, let's say like 6 weeks. If a fetus is aborted during that period, the fetus will not feel anything. The fetus will not go nearly through as much suffering had the alternative happened and the woman was pregnant and she didn't want the baby. And she did end up having to suffer through all that pain. And on top of that, the fetus would also have to struggle through, maybe the adoption center. Now, I'm not going to argue and say that simply having a hard future ahead of you is a good enough justification for abortion, because by that logic, then we should unalive homeless people. But I would go ahead and say that in the many circumstances in which women don't have the ability or don't want to have the child, a lot of times they are low income, and a lot of times the fetus will end up growing up in a tough childhood, a tough life, and will cycle back into crime. So I would say I'd like to make the argument that abortion lowers the crime rates in the United States, and I'd say that it evens out. Yes, sure, you can say that a human being is dying, but I'd say it's worth it because the human beings that are being unalived are not able to feel it.
Yeah, I would respond similarly by saying, like, equate that to the situation of the newborn. You can parse it in two different scenarios. One, the exact same situation where they're not feeling anything, right? But they can still reflexively suckle and be nursed. And then the same burden of pregnancy is equated there, where you're going to have to sustain this nursing that's going to cause you serious mental and physical burdens. And then by your justification here, by virtue that they're not feeling something sufficiently or not feeling anything at all, but they can still suckle and they would have a normal life otherwise, as if they were feeling, you could say you can starve or allow this infant to perish, right? And I think that's obviously counterintuitive. So it seems like most people would say you have an obligation within a certain physical threshold of nursing this infant, even if it's not sentient. But let's say hypothetically that even if it's feeling something slightly, just because a lot of times there is a slight sensation there, like if the main thing that's driving moral consideration are those future valuable experiences, then this minimal degree of feeling that it has when it's an infant doesn't seem to be doing like really much of any work, right? It will maybe suffer very minutely because it has very minimal sensation, but all the work is still being done by those future valuable experiences that are still expected of it by virtue of what it is and the functional unity that it gained at the point of conception. This is the reason why, again, where even if like an infant isn't feeling anything and you have a choice to save an infant over a very sentient pig, like a super sentient pig, there's like love at its life, you'd still probably save the infant because the expectation of those future valuable experiences far outweighs the degree and type of sentience that the pig has. And that's why this notion of having no feeling at the moment doesn't override what's doing all the work here, which is that expectation of future valuable experiences. Unless, of course, you stipulate that the mother is experiencing this bodily or mental pain to such an insane degree that no person in their right mind should be expected to bear it. But again, that's probably not what you're saying. You're probably saying that there's some significant burden, but it's not like an insane degree, which would mimic or mirror the hypothetical I gave with going out and fighting a bear to milk the bear to provide sustenance for the infant in the cabin in the woods.
Sure. So I'd say, I guess, to make a generalization, I don't know if this would be considered a generalization, but just to take an outlook on society, can you point towards one instance in society where anyone is forced to use their body, I guess their internal organs, besides this situation to protect and provide for some other human being by law?
Well, simply because this is like the cardinal case that appears doesn't mean that this isn't a case that you wouldn't apply similar considerations. But since you asked, I mean, I gave you one example, right, where if the mother is only able to provide for the infant with her bodily resources through breastfeeding, right? Let's say she doesn't have formula, she can't transfer the obligation. If you fail to provide that, sustenance in this case, you would probably be charged with neglect and potentially manslaughter, potentially second-degree murder, or worse. Now, even if that weren't the case, I'm not going to appeal to legality, right? Like, I'm just going to say that's what I think the law should be, because unaliving or allowing the infant to starve in that case seems to be woefully counterintuitive, given the valuations that we have for human beings who are expected to have a robust future existence.
I like how you made a clarification for the fetus and not, or not, I guess the baby and the mother not being able to give the baby to someone else. So I'm just like to ask, in what circumstance can a woman not in the United States not able to give away the baby, like through adoption or through fostering, or literally through just giving the baby to someone else? When is that in the United States not an option?
So it's a hypothetical to show that if that were not an option, we would still have an obligation, right? So the fact that it doesn't occur frequently, like the cabin in the woods is a typical example, right? Where you're in custody of a child and you can't just surrender them to somebody else because you're isolated from civilization or you're isolated from other people, right? So the fact that it doesn't happen frequently is not really material to whether or not the obligation grounds in some intuitive force. But even if like it never happened, which I'm not convinced that it never happens, it probably has happened that people have been isolated with children. They can't transfer the obligation, and they have to, provide, either breast milk to feed them because maybe they just have no other resource available to sustain the child. But even if that never happened, right? The idea that you're talking about here, where like the obligation is transferred, actually works in my favor because you're presupposing that there's an obligation that exists that is to be transferred, right? Because if there was no obligation, what are you really transferring, right? It seems like you're actually affirming that there's some obligation, and as long as somebody is there to take that obligation, then things are fine. But the point of these hypotheticals is simply to illustrate that when there is nobody there, the obligation would still exist intuitively. And if that's the case, then the pro-life position goes through.
Well, sure. I'm not gonna say that there's never gonna be an obligation to take care of the baby. Like I don't think in the United States there should ever be any grown adult or any children that are outside of the womb that should be starving on the side of the street. I'd say that as a society we've collectively agreed that every child should be able to live their life, be fed, right? So what I am saying though is even in that circumstance, even after birth, the women still have the option and still have the choice to give away the child, and whether it's through the adoption center, whether it's through fostering. I don't think anywhere in the United States right now can a woman do that, even if you do paint out this circumstance of whether or not they don't have the option. Like let's say they do not have the option to give away the child through the adoption center, and then we have to narrow it down to where there's no other person that we can give the baby to, and we can narrow it down even more to say that the mother has no food or anything to give to the baby. Even in that circumstance, we can fall back onto entitlement programs. But even then, I guess if there was some like way that even they couldn't get entitlement programs, I would say that if there's literally nothing there for the woman to give, then I guess I'd like to ask, what if the woman can't even breastfeed their child? What if the breastfeeding would then harm her? Would she still be obligated to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously stipulated in this hypothetical, right, that she can breastfeed and that breastfeeding is not going to be equated to her going and fighting a bear and getting permanently maimed for the rest of her life, right? It's stipulated that this is supposed to mimic the typical pregnancy. And we can do, again, the inductive survey that because typical pregnancies are not something a medical practitioner would say, like, this is going to destroy you for life, even though it might have, like, certain effects, even permanent effects, because that seems to fall medically within a reasonability threshold, that would be equated to breastfeeding the child there. Now, if you're stipulating that she doesn't have breast milk, well, obviously, there's no obligation because she just can't do anything, right? She can't do anything to save the child as best as she can. She might, willingly go and fight the bear, but that would be above and beyond a supererogatory condition that you wouldn't be obligated to because it seems to be quite in excess of the threshold of the typical pregnancy. So yeah, if she doesn't have breast milk, she wouldn't be obligated. And if you're also stipulating that she has breast milk, but it's causing her some like insane condition where she's now like being put in serious bodily jeopardy where she's going to unalive if she breastfeeds it, yeah, that might be like just a medical exception, right? Where like, okay, you're not obligated to sacrifice yourself for your child. If you want to, and you want to be quote virtuous, okay, go for it. But you wouldn't be obligated there. But that's again, like not the typical case that we're talking about.
Well, I do want to point out that you made the comparison that breastfeeding is equivalent, or I guess in the same pain level as a full term of pregnancy plus birth. Just to clarify, do you think that just breastfeeding a child is just as painful and just as damaging to the human body as giving birth and also the 9 months before that with the baby inside of the womb.
No, no, no. I'm not saying it's identical in the sense that, like, breastfeeding for 1 minute is has the concentration of 9 months of pregnancy and birth. If you're stipulating that you have to go through that type of pain concentrated in 1 minute, that would probably be like such an insane excess of burden that you would not be obligated to do so. What I'm saying here is that, like, you're unable to transfer the obligation for a period of time. Let's, like, say it's 9 months or 8 months, and the distribution of burden is identical during that time period to the typical pregnancy, right? Many parents actually report that the burden they have with caring for a child physically post birth is even higher than when they were parents, or sorry, when they were pregnant. That has been reported in various situations, right? Where you're actually more burdened than you are during pregnancy by virtue of, like, whatever condition you're going through in the infancy of your child. But even if that were not the case, right? Even if it was just purely identical, intuitively, because people seem to have this reasonability threshold applied to a typical pregnancy, that would seem to transfer over to the case where I'm giving, where you would have a similar experience distributed over the same time, right? 8 to 9 months. But
So
by the way, feel free if you want to give one last word, and I'll respond. And if you want to get another word in, because I probably have to, like, drop down in a bit. Just FYI.
all right, so I do want to mention. So this was an interesting point that you mentioned that if we did shove all the pain and all the suffering that a woman goes through the 9 months and the birth into like 1 minute or however long it takes to breastfeed that hypothetical child, it would be the pain would be intolerable. I guess I can to an extent understand what you're saying that if we shove it all into 1 minute, the pain like I guess adds up into where it's inexperience. It's I guess not you're not able to deal with it. But I feel like there's either we need to make another circumstance or make another hypothetical to where we can actually shove all the pain and suffering into one specific, I guess, time zone to determine whether or not like we should force a mother to breastfeed her or whatever the circumstance would be to take care of the child. Now, you also mentioned that many times mothers report that they have more of a burden after the birth to take care of the child. I would like to make a distinction between having a more of a burden and like there being more pain and more, I guess, destruction to the body before versus after birth. So before the birth, right, during the 9 months of the pregnancy, I don't really see an argument that the woman does not go through a lot. There's a lot that a woman goes through. A lot. Sure, there's a burden, right? But that's not the main argument. That's not the main problem with the 9 months. It would be the pain. It would be the sickness. It would be the destruction of the body. The body would be changed. Sure, it's going to go back after like I don't know a few months after the birth, but even in that circumstance, there's a lot more change to the mother's life, right? A lot more suffering to the mother's life before and during birth and after birth. Sure, there's more of a burden, but that's because the baby is growing and the baby needs more food and there needs more nourishment. But I would say that burden doesn't always equate to towards more pain. I think we should focus on the pain and suffering aspect rather than the burden aspect.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying. When I say burden, I'm usually using it in a sense of equivalency, right? Where I'm equating whatever that's comprised of. So if you're saying pain and general distress, physical or mental, that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying that the burden here is identical, or at least on par with a typical healthy pregnancy, right? I'm not talking about ones that are extreme or anomalies. So if we expect people, or if we hold that the pregnancy itself is something reasonable, then most people, or not most people, but, like, let's say a lot of people, a plurality of women enter into their lifetime and enter willingly and repeatedly, right? That seems to already establish this baseline, like this is within a threshold that medically people would understand as normal and something that the average woman can bear, right? Assuming there's no, like, medical complication or some, like, anomaly. Again, that's, like, a different consideration. So if that's the baseline, then I'm saying if you're nursing this infant and it's producing the exact same effect on your body over the same time period, if we expect that you would be obligated there, then the same logic seems to apply that you would be obligated in pregnancy. If the thing that's really grounding value is those future valuable experiences, which, again, like I said, is already present at the point of conception. But I'll drop down. I'll listen to your response. I really appreciate you having me on here. It's a great discussion. Maybe next time we can flip the board, and you'll be pro-life, I'll be pro-choice.
Sure, I do debate a lot better on pro life. I do want to say one more thing though. You can like drop down. I would say that The mother simply repeating right at birth, right after or pregnancy, right after they've given birth doesn't necessarily mean that the pregnancy isn't as bad. I would say that there are women that do struggle through pregnancies that we'd both agree on are terrible pregnancies, like maybe an ectopic pregnancy or a miscarriage or something that does cause a lot of destruction. But even after that, women still give births; they still get pregnant. That that doesn't belittle the fact that they did go through a really tough pregnancy. So simply wanting to repeat the pregnancy does not mean the pregnancy is in any ways easy.
Hello.
Howdy. What did you want to talk about? Oh, age for TikTok purposes.
I'm 18. I was born in 2007 in
Okay.
September, so I turned 19 this year. But
Sure.
I wanted to talk about abortion. I'm pro-choice.
You're pro-choice. All right. Why are you pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice because I believe that
Mhm.
since it's the woman's body and she's providing nutrients to the fetus, that it should be her choice. Um,
Oh yeah, y'all chill. Y'all chill out. Y'all could they could hear y'all. Okay, go ahead.
Also, let me say real quick, I do have a bunch of research on this, so I do have sources for a bunch of the things that I'm gonna say, but I'd have to pull up a Google Docs, and whenever I leave the app, my microphone stops working, so I don't know if I'll be able to, but I can try.
Okay, so the argument is that she provides the nutrients, thus she can decide whether or not the nutrients continue to go towards the fetus's body. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
Okay, so in the circumstance, the previous guest kind of mentioned a similar kind of situation in which there was a mother who had a child who was unable to give that child away to someone else, right? She had to take care of that child because there's maybe the adoption wasn't working, maybe there was no opportunity for her to send the baby up for adoption or give the baby to somewhere else. That fetus or that baby would still be obligated to be taken care of by that mother. In fact, even in a situation where she can give the baby away, she would still be obligated to give that baby away. Because if the mother simply does nothing, that would be neglectful. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a seizure. Okay, neglectful. That would be illegal because the baby can't just simply exist by itself. The mother would have to take care of the baby. So that situation really necessarily they would still have to take care of it.
That's true. I also want to talk about the fact that I spent a lot of time researching on abortion today, like 2 to 3 hours on it. And I researched all these things about like what pregnancy does to the body for women and children. And I think, especially when it comes, the reason I can't be pro-life is because yeah, I think that some reasons that people are getting abortions, such as like certain physical features, if you're just getting an abortion for that reason, or you're just being irresponsible and just getting abortions like willy nilly, I don't think that's right. And I think that that's not right. But also, I don't think you can be pro life and pro choice because pro life is abolish abortion for all. And especially when it comes down to rape victims,
Oh,
especially in
you
young
gotta use TikTok
children.
friendly language. You can't say that word. You say like grape or something.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Especially when it comes to young girls getting raped. Um, they have their pubic what is it called, there's like a muscle that reaches back and forth, and that muscle can be like very stretched, and it can cause problems with bladder, especially in younger girls, which causes lower rates in being able to be pregnant when you become older. And also it causes a lot more stress on especially a younger child, and anxiety to have to force them to keep the pregnancy.
All right, so before I continue, hold on, can y'all hear me? My thing is like messed up, right? Like really bad. So I guess I would want to point out that if you're gonna argue from the great position, I guess I don't know if you're conceding the other ABs, but if you are, then we need to just look at just AB and for grape because that's only 1% of ABs. Like that's a very small fraction of what actually happens. The vast majority is out of convenience. So if we're gonna only look at grape, I feel like we need to accept that grape or for ABs for non-grape victims or women that are not, their life isn't in jeopardy. We don't need to focus on that. We need to just agree that that should be illegal. So do you agree that that should be banned?
That having no abortion for women.
No, abortion out of convenience.
Oh yes, I think that that's not Right.
So then you would probably be considered pro-life then, because most people, like, you have Trump's position.
Well, here's the problem that I see with that, at least, is usually, so pro-life is usually abolish abortion for everything, and then pro-choice is make a choice about it, because the big thing about that is when it comes to legislation, it's really tricky. And to make a law such as, oh, well, you can't have abortions for this reason, you can only have abortions if you get raped or something like that. I believe that if you made a law like that, that would mean you'd have to take anybody who gets raped, put them on trial, and if they don't find the rapist and the rapist doesn't get charged, then somehow that child, maybe even a child, is getting, or a woman, it doesn't really matter, but um, anyone is getting stuck with baby that was conceived through sexual assault.
So,
And I think that making a law like that is very tricky.
sure, I understand that. Okay, I don't know what's going on.
That pro-life
Can you?
and pro-choice, like that's why I think I'm pro-choice more than I'm pro-life.
I might have to reset the live. I'm like, everything's glitching right now. Can you hear me? Hold on, I'm gonna reset the live. Y'all can come back. I don't know what's going on right
Right.
now. Am I getting hacked? Dude, what is going on? No, everything is working fine except TikTok. All right, I'm back on the live now. I don't know, dude, what just happened? That was weird. Harper, I'm not gonna stream on Discord. I think that's what messed everything up. Shoot, hold on. I gotta.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. I just had to reset the live.
Oh, yeah. It might be a part on my part. You're just glitching out a little bit, but not too bad. So, um, yeah. What I was saying before was that, like, legislating a law on trying to separate the two things between grape and just like convenience would be very hard, which is why I believe that you can only be pro-life or pro-choice. And being pro-choice means not that you necessarily fully support convenience abortion, or yeah, I can say abortion, convenience abortions, but that you support abortions for females who are raped. And I think that's why I'm pro-choice, because if you were to legislate a law, the only
Hmm?
fair way to legislate it would either be keep abortions or abolish them.
Well, by that logic, Donald Trump would be considered pro-choice. But let's just say that he's pro-choice for this discussion. I would say that whether or not you're pro-life or pro-choice, that would go down to whether or not you believe that abortion is moral or immoral in the case of just convenience. I would say that if that's the standard, what you're making it to be, then the vast majority of people, except maybe like 20% of Americans, would be considered pro-life or pro-choice because most people don't believe that rape victims should be given birth. Did she just leave the live?
What's up?
What's up, dude? My TikTok is messed up.
Very good. So, are you pro Trump or
Whatever you're not, I will be the opposite of what you believe.
Oh, I didn't vote this year. I
There
voted
hasn't
when I
been an
turned 8.
election this year.
I mean, like whenever
Oh
Trump
yeah, yeah.
voted.
Were you old enough? How old are you?
Yeah, I didn't vote during the election.
Why
What do you
didn't
mean? What
you?
am I?
Like what? How old are
I
you?
just didn't. I didn't. 22.
Uh, so what would you say your thoughts are on Trump? I would just this. You're probably not a Trump supporter.
I mean, I am, but recently, like he's been out of his mind recently. Like the whole thing with war at Iraq or Iran or whichever one it is.
I would say
Like
that
we should
that
not
war
be
is
going to war
justified.
for a whole nother country.
Well, I don't think we're going to war for any other country. They're the ones that have attacked the United States over the past 30, 40 years. They've unalived 1,000 American soldiers. They've attacked us through proxies. They are the largest tea organization funder in the Middle East. They fund all sorts of tea organizations that have attacked the United States. Uh, Iran is not a country that is in any way, shape, or form a good country that should exist. They were on the verge of collapse before we actually came in. Are you aware, like their motto being like "Death to America"?
Yeah, yeah. But I'm talking about for Israel. Like they were in an allegation before and then they called us in to help because they bombed the U.S. embassy in Israel, and then so I guess they didn't really call us in. I guess they did start it with us.
Well, the
Iran
initial
or
reason we
whatever
attacked is
brought us
because
into
they,
it
they
technically.
it wasn't Israel. It was their own actions of developing a nuclear weapon, and they're building up uranium. That's what we were told, the American people. Whether or not you believe it,
Yeah,
that's a different situation. But what we know is that Israel had no involvement in telling us to go attack Iran just because they want us to. Like there was a reason that we had to. It was a threat to not only our allies, it was a threat to us as well.
yeah. What are your thoughts on abortion though?
Whatever you're not.
Well, I'm pro-abortion, or I think abortion is bad. Like I don't think we should have abortion.
So you think you're pro-life then? You're anti-abortion. So I don't. I'm pro-life too. I don't want to like swerve you. I guess swerve you into the wrong direction. So if I do debate from a pro-choice
Hmm.
standpoint, I don't want you to actually become pro-choice. But I guess I'll still run the argument on you. So
Yeah.
why are you
Hmm.
pro-life?
Well, because I mean, so many women are having abortions now, and we're just losing lives, and they're killing babies just because someone doesn't want them. I mean, you could at least give them up for adoption instead of abortion.
So the
Like
government
we
should.
should not be.
So the government should force women to go to term for these fetuses simply because the population isn't going up enough.
Yeah, I think that they should at least put them up for adoption.
Is it because the population in of itself needs to go up? Is that the actual argument? Because if we did that, then we could just open up the borders and let a bunch of people in, because then the United States population would go up.
Illegals commit crimes.
Actually, illegal immigrants on average commit less crimes than the average American citizen. And if you do want to go down the crime path, one could
Oh.
argue that abortion actually lowers crime rate because abortions tend to happen in lower income communities, and that's where crime tends to run rapid. That's why we've seen such a large decrease in crime over the past 20 or 30 years. Is because abortion was legalized. Roe v. Wade was it was brought up in 1972 or somewhere around there.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, even if it was illegal or legal, I still don't think that we should be having abortion because I mean, and even if there were like the crime rate is lower if we're still having abortions, I think because it doesn't really matter. I don't. Where'd you get that from? Like,
What?
I'm
Which
not trying to
one?
say you're wrong. I just want to know that abortion more abortion causes less crime.
Well, we could just go. I mean, I could just argue that there is. I don't know if I could give you an exact source that says directly. I mean, Stanford might have something. The impact of legalized abortion on crime over the last 2 decades. I guess you could use that as a source. So I guess if you think Stanford Law School is a trustworthy source, but even if we didn't use that source, we could just simply argue. I could give you a source that says that in lower income communities, people that have less money in those areas, they commit more crimes. Like that would be something we could probably both agree on without having to pull up a source. And I could
Yeah.
also argue that there's, I don't know if you would believe this or not, but abortion tends to happen in lower income areas. So if I could just prove to you that if there's more abortions in these areas, there's less people that are being born. Thus, there's less people that are there to commit the crime. But I guess Stanford would probably just be sufficient for you.
Yeah, but what if we did something about that? Like, what if, I don't know, what is there anything we could do about that to make there less crime in lower income communities?
I mean, that would be a separate issue off of abortion. I guess we could talk about that, though. I would say that there needs to be stricter punishments. I feel like the people are getting off way too easy in the criminal justice system. I think we need to focus more on rehabilitation. I think your teacup. I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but I can hear you. I don't know. There are obviously some things we can do that aren't being done right now. You know, people like to blame overplacing the issue. I think that overplacing is the opposite. I think we need to bring in more police, and we need to be stricter on criminals. And yeah, I think more people in jail is not necessarily a bad thing. All right, next guest.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Um, so I want to get to abortion, but I want to just bring up one thing that you said. You mentioned that Iran was on the decline, and they shouldn't have a right to exist. I think that's absolutely preposterous to say,
I didn't say that.
especially since America did play a direct. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You said they it's a country that shouldn't exist.
I mean, what I meant to say, if I did say that, I meant to say the IRGC doesn't need to exist. The government that runs the country should not exist.
Okay, yeah. All right, but you admit that, in America there was a CIA backed coup which eliminated their democratically elected prime minister.
Sure,
Like
I've
I
heard a
think
lot
that
about that
that directly
stuff.
led to the destate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
but that directly led to the destabilization of Iran.
sure, but I don't think that means that we need to do anything or don't need to do anything right now. What happened in the 1970s, what was 1979? Sure, we might have made
It,
mistakes back
yeah.
then, but it's right now. What if the United States is at threat? We shouldn't just not necessarily say, "Oh, well, we're at threat," but we did something 40 years ago, so no big deal. We can just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, get that sentiment, but like America is the reason why it's like that. You know what I mean?
Sure, but
We got to take accountability. All right, all right, all right, all right. But I want to get to abortion. I'm definitely pro-choice.
why's that?
I don't think a human should not have they don't have the right to use somebody else's body in order to sustain themselves, and I think that applies to a fetus as well.
Well, we already do that, though. I mean, mothers are obligated to take care of their children because if they don't, that would be considered child neglect, and that's illegal. Do you disagree with that law?
Um, yes, I do think, but there isn't like it's a moral obligation, but you don't always have to follow like a moral obligation. Like
Wow.
I-
Hold on, just to play this
when
out into perspective, dude, hold on. I just got restrictions because I don't know if that's what you just said, but I just did get a visibility restriction. So you basically just said that we shouldn't have child neglect laws.
no, I think we do. We should
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
I thought you just argued against that. Never mind.
No. I think when it's like outside of the body, you know what I mean? Like it's not relying on the mothers in order to sustain. So you can't kill the child. You know what I mean? You can't do
You
anything
gotta use
adverse that
TikTok
would
friendly
kill the
language.
child.
Say unalive.
Unalive and fault. Um, but like while it's inside the body, like the fetus doesn't have the right to use the mother's body in order to sustain its life.
Okay, so by that logic, you're pro-choice on 9 months.
Yes.
Okay, so you believe that
But I
fully.
recognize that but I recognize that most abortions, like 95% of abortions happen before 25 weeks.
Sure, but those that are after, like, let's say viability, you believe that that should be illegal.
Yeah,
Do you think
there's
that's
I'm
moral?
letting you know. I don't. I mean, it's another human body using your body. You know what I mean? And most abortions are not happening at 9 months. But if it got to that point, yeah, I think if
But
it's relying on your body in order to survive, you can terminate it.
do you see the
It's
contradiction in
like a
yourself,
79
though?
year old. Ow! If a 79-year-old who has kidney failure is on dialysis, they don't have the right to use my kidney in order for them to survive.
Well, sure, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about specifically motherhood. I'd say that there's a specific obligation for
But no,
motherhood, but there
but
are
you
some.
could definitely equate those two because it's still preserving a life.
If we're going to argue and say that there's no other people in society that have to sacrifice or dedicate their life to protecting us, we could look at firefighters, we could look at police officers, we could look at people in the military that are obligated by law to protect us when it comes to even putting their own life on the line. So
But
this
they
argument,
voluntarily did that.
well, no, sometimes in the draft that wouldn't necessarily be voluntarily, and even in the circumstances you're talking about, a lot of
That's an
times
extreme circumstances. But like the
you're
people
talking
in the
about an
military
extreme.
now, all firefighters and police officers, they voluntarily do that.
Okay, so even if you're just going to exclude the extreme circumstances, if you're referring to the draft, then we got to exclude the rape victims, right? So let's talk about specifically the mainline reason of abortion, which would be out of
Hmm.
convenience. If we're going to look at that specifically, one could argue that those women voluntarily did something, they consented to sex, which they knew would end up producing or had a very strong likelihood of having a child, and so they ended up getting pregnant, right? Which they understood was a possible consequence of what their actions were. Just like the police officer who signed up to become a police officer now has to protect his life, protect his fellow civilians, right? For even if it means putting his life on the line. So it'd be the same situation, just in different contexts.
But a risk does not give a right. You know what I mean? Like if I have sex with a condom on, of course there's still that risk, but they don't. The fetus does not that does not give the fetus a right to use the mother's body in order to sustain itself.
Well, sure, but that'd be the same situation with the police officer. Yeah, they're not guaranteed to end up having to risk their life to protect us, or firefighters would be the same situation. They're not
Hmm.
expected. It's a chance. It's a risk that can happen, but it's not
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, the situations are still very similar.
But I mean, the firefighters and police officers, they see that the risk is too much. They can not take on the risk at
Same
all.
thing with women consenting to sex.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because in those firefighters and police officers, there's not a I guess they're not using their body in order for them to survive. I don't think so.
Yes, they
Not in the
are.
same way as like I don't think that's in the same sentiment as like a 79-year-old kidney failure victim like is using that. I don't think that equates to a police officer putting
Well,
their life on the line.
okay, let me paint a picture for you. I guess
Sure.
we can ignore the fact, yeah, the police officer, I could say that they do have to use their body to protect us, right? But if you're talking about specific, other, if you want to look at the old man who has liver or kidney failure or whatever
Mhm.
body part it is, would you be down to a law that says that if you see a child drowning and you just watch it happen, that's illegal? Like, do you think that the law should give you a moral obligation or a legal obligation to save a kid from drowning, or from, let's say, like they're in a fire or they're putting their life at risk, right? In that situation, do you think that the law should morally force you to protect that child and to save them from the risk of death?
No, you don't have to do that.
Why don't you think that the law should force you to do that?
Because why? You don't have to do that.
Yeah, I know, but why not? It's a child that's literally dying.
Okay, but I don't need to put my body on the line for them.
Well, I mean, you do if you have a child, you would have to dedicate your life to taking care of
No.
this kid. In the situation where the first guest painted this picture, and I really like this illustration, a woman has a child, but they have no ability to give that child away. They have to take care of that child through breastfeeding, right? Do you think that mother has the obligation to breastfeed that child?
I mean, formula exists. So it's not directly having to rely on the mother.
No, the baby will die if she does not or he does not breastfeed.
No, then I would say yeah, in extreme circumstance like that, yeah.
So you are against child neglect laws.
What do you mean?
Like if a mother just does not do anything with a child and the child ends up dying or gets seriously injured, in that situation, you believe that the mother has the complete right to do whatever she wants to, not have to take care of the child. Why is it that you're now against the law not doing that, or the law? Now you
Because child
support the law
neglect laws
protecting.
happens once the I guess the child no longer needs the mother's body in order to sustain its life.
Okay, but no, the mother still has to dedicate her life to protect that baby and to take care of that kid. Like, sure, it's not literally
Or
like
her,
fluids coming out of her body, but it's still her doing something with her body, whether it be to feed it or to get a job to take care of it. The baby still, or the mother still has to take care of that child with her body.
wait, what type of baby is this?
A human baby, a regular baby.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking it up, and like, I think what you're referring to is like the SP babies, where they only rely on the mother's breast milk. They those babies can safely be fed milk from other than their mothers. So
I wasn't.
it's not primarily like when it's a fetus. It needs the mother's body in order to survive. But like these babies, they can get nutrients from
That's
other sources other than the mom.
That's not the scenario I painted. I painted the scenario that this mother has the child, she gives birth, and the only way she can take care of that kid is there's no like special like health care or health issues this baby has. All it has is that there is no way for the mother to give this baby away, and there's no way for the mother to take care of this baby any other way besides breastfeeding. She can't afford food. She doesn't have any food in the pantry, has no food to give to the baby, no other milk. She only has her breast milk should the law require her to breastfeed her own baby.
Baby, can the is the mother like does the mother need any other nutrients? Is this like a survival situation, like on an island or something?
The mother's not going to unalive. She's not going to be unalived if she breastfeeds the baby, if that's what you're asking.
In this extreme circumstance, yes, because it's needing the mother's body in order to sustain itself.
Wait, can you repeat? I had sent a message. So you believe that that should be by law required? The mother should feed that baby.
Does the actually no, actually no.
So you're
I don't think
against.
so.
Why would you then be for child neglect laws if you don't believe the mother has the
Um,
obligation to take care of the child?
I mean, because you don't have the right, you don't have to perform any moral obligation.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So
morally
then
reprehensible, but you don't have to do that.
you would be against child neglect
If it's
laws.
in this scenario, in this extreme scenario, like I already mentioned, like babies, like they can, 100% they can get nutrients from somebody else other than the mom. But in this extreme scenario where it only relies on the mother, I guess they're an alien or something. No, because it doesn't have the right. But
They're
I
not an
think at that
alien.
point,
They're just a mother that doesn't have any other source to give to the baby. Like it's
yeah. But
just
what
something that's
scenario is
happened
this?
before.
What scenarios is this like exists? Like, but babies can
It's
always get nutrients other than the mother.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in a situation where there's no other food the mother can give to the baby. Let's say it's a newborn baby that can't eat
Same.
on its own, right? With most newborn babies, there's no like formula to give to the newborn baby. She can't afford it. She can afford regular food that she can eat, but she can't feed that newborn. That's something that could definitely happen. It's something that's very possible. It's probably happening somewhere in the world right now. Should the law force that mother to breastfeed her baby? If you say no, then you're against child neglect laws because in that circumstance you would be saying that babies necessarily or that mothers are not necessarily obligated to take care of their children if it means it's at the expense of her own body and her own will. By that logic, child neglect laws shouldn't exist because the mother is not necessarily obligated to take care of that child. The mother can do whatever she wants to, and if that means leaving the baby inside of her crib and not taking care of that baby for weeks on end, and the baby ends up unaliving or something, she has that liberty and she has that freedom protected by the law to do so.
I mean, because child neglect laws apply after the fetus is born.
Just like the scenario I painted, yeah.
Yeah,
So why are you
I
for
think the
that?
child neglect laws happen like, but while in the womb, like it's there, the fetus does not have a right to use that.
Yeah, but I'm asking you about the scenario though specifically. Why is it that you believe in the picture that I painted, the mother is not forced to take care of the baby.
Because the
But
legal obligation doesn't exist while in the womb.
but this baby is already born though.
Then that's when child neglect laws would come into play, and so
Because
of course you wouldn't be able to leave the baby in a car and just go somewhere. No, that's what the child. That's what
now
the
you're changing what your answer was to the scenario. The scenario
How?
is you just said no, the child neglect laws would be in place. Now you think the mother should be forced and obligated to take care
Because
of
the
the
child
baby.
neglect laws they come into play once the fetus is born,
Okay,
not
got
while
it.
the fetus is inside.
So the argument is no longer that the mother doesn't have the obligation to give fluids to another human being. Like that was your initial argument when you brought up the man that
No,
has liver
my initial
failure.
argument is that the fetus doesn't have the right to use the mother's body in order to sustain its life.
But now you believe that is to be true because now that the baby is born, he still uses the breast milk. That in this
Yeah, because
circumstance that
there's a
you.
legal obligation once that human is no
So
longer a fetus.
what's the difference between before and after birth? Like why is it specifically after birth?
Because we assign legal obligation to it after the child is born. That's
Well,
what the child neglect laws.
we still do that though even before birth. Like if there's a pregnant woman that is unalive by some terrible person, that would be considered a double H side. I think that's how you'd say on TikTok. So the law definitely recognizes fetuses as people, right?
Yes,
Even
but
in that
the right to life does not give it the right to use my body in order for it to live.
but you already agreed that that's something that mothers do have an obligation to, like in a circumstance where you're in this weird situation where mother has no other option except to breastfeed the baby. You agreed that the mother should be forced to breastfeed that baby because if she doesn't, then that baby ends up dying. It'd be
What
the
if that
same
mother can't
situation
produce
with
breast milk? What if that mother can't produce breast milk? Does that same law apply to them? Or does that same punishment still apply to them?
No, both people would end up dying. Or I guess maybe not the mother, she'd have the food, but the baby would end up being unalived regardless. So in that situation, it would be different. That'd be more comparable to a mother that's going to have a baby, like an ectopic pregnancy. Like that'd be more comparable to that situation. But the situation that I painted is a mother that has the breast milk, but doesn't have anything else to provide for the baby. You believe that mother would be obligated by law to breastfeed that baby. That would be
Yes,
fluids
because
that
we already
she's
have.
given into her. It's so you're basing the laws off of what we already have right now. Got it. So
Yeah.
the laws recognize the baby as a human being because when we have a mother that is pregnant that is unalived, that would be considered a double H side.
No, not when it's in the fetus because it doesn't have that right.
No, it would though. What do you mean it
No.
doesn't have that right? It depends on the state that you're in, really. If you're going to base it off of the law, then in many states they would have that right.
What gives the baby the right to use my body in order for it to survive?
You tell me you're the one that accepted that's something that you believe that the baby should have the obligation to, and I painted the
But
circumstance.
it doesn't have that right.
You just accepted that was a right. You accepted that was a right when the mother was forced to breastfeed her baby in that circumstance.
The baby does not have that right though, or the
Okay.
fetus doesn't.
No, why not the fetus but the baby?
Because the fetus doesn't have its right to use the mother's life for it to survive.
Okay, you're just circular reasoning. You're not actually.
I
making
guess,
it.
but I mean, I feel like it's pretty simple to understand though.
No, you're not actually providing a logical argument. You're being circular here. You're just saying, oh, the reason the baby
What
has
gives the fetus the right to use my body? Or the mother's body?
You tell me it's the same logic when you applied that same argument, the moral
telling you, but I'm
obligation and
asking
legal
you.
obligation of protecting that baby by breastfeeding it. It'd be the same logic with one that's born versus one that's not born. The only argument that you can really come up with is that there's some specific distinction between pre-birth and post-birth.
I honestly don't think that they should. To be honest, like if they could provide the breast milk, I don't think that they have to.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
No, you've changed. I do want to point out this is like the third or fourth time you've changed your answer.
Yeah, but now that I'm thinking about it, no, they shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, as a society, we assign legal obligation, but that doesn't. You don't have the right to, like, you don't have to follow the legal obligation, but society sets those legal obligations in order for society to
Wait,
follow.
what? We're
But
talking about the law, though.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't think that you should be asked. You should have to.
So should a woman though be forced to take care of the child that she has right
In an
now?
extreme
regular
scenario where
scenario.
she doesn't have anything.
No, in a regular scenario where she can, like, just take care of the kid.
I mean, drop it off at a fire station. You can't if you can't do it.
Well, though she would then be legally obligated to drop the baby off at a fire station. Should she be forced with her own body to drop the baby off at a fire station?
Like if you give birth and leave it, I mean that's a legal obligation. But what right does it have to my body? I mean, if I'm letting if
Wow.
I'm but I feel like letting die and then letting them like use my body. I don't know. I feel like it's different.
All right. I don't
The
know.
fetus the fetus doesn't have a right to use my body.
So you're against child neglect laws,
But I wouldn't go that far, because
but
I
you
do
would.
agree with the
But
legal allegation.
this
I just
is
don't think that the fetus has that right.
I think this is, I would just try to simplify it and make it like a straight, very ABC line. Okay?
Mm.
You believe in child neglect laws, apparently. I don't know. You've kind of been wishy washy. So let's just say you do. You believe a mother does have an obligation to do something with the child to make sure that child is in good care, whether it be actually taking care of the child herself and like paying the bills and feeding the kid and whatever, or using her body to take the baby off to the fire station or to an adoption center or something like that. So you believe that. So I feel like you'd also believe in that circumstances that the mother can breastfeed the child, but has no other option but to breastfeed that child. She should still breastfeed that child because that's the logic of the original circumstance. By that logic, the argument that women don't have they don't have the obligation to forcefully give fluids to the baby and give her body to the baby, that argument doesn't necessarily work because you already accepted that the mother does have to do that in circumstances after birth. So the only real thing you could really say is that there's something different between before and after birth when it comes to taking care of the child. But if you can't make that argument, then you'd have to become pro-life.
So, can I ask you a question? If should a 79-year-old dialysis patient, kidney failure, do they have the right to use my body in order for it to survive?
No, but I've made a distinction between motherhood and like me donating my life. I think I would do it, right? I would be willing to give away like
So,
an extra.
if I need your kidney
But
right now, like I should just be able to use it.
I would say that it's not necessarily like a federal law. I mean, if I could donate something to you without unaliving myself, I would do that. Sure, I'm not going to say the law should force you to, but there's a distinction between me and you and our relationship being random people on TikTok and a mother and her child. I think the mother and her child, I'd say really
Okay,
the
so all
father
right,
and
so
his child
let's
as
do it like
well.
this. So the I guess the baby needs the mother's kidney, or I guess the daughter needs the mother's kidney. In some scenario, she should have that right.
If the mother does not unalive, I would say that it wouldn't just be the mother; it'd be the father too. They both
Like no, no,
have
no.
the
The daughter will die unless she gets the mother's kidney.
yeah. Would the mother
That
unalive
that that
though?
daughter that daughter has a right to that kidney.
Would you? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying is the mother gonna unalive if she gives away
No,
her body? Okay, if she doesn't
no.
unalive,
That but the
I would
the mother
say
is not. The
mother and
mother is
father
not gonna
both
die.
should eat. If no one's gonna die if she does give away
No,
her
the
kidney.
daughter is gonna die if she doesn't get the mother's
Yeah,
kidney.
that's what I'm saying. If the mother does give away the kidney though, does neither person die or unalive?
Yeah, no, neither person is unalive.
Okay, then I'd say that yeah, in that circumstance, the mother should, or the father should, or whoever. I think one of the guardians should.
Nah,
I mean, it would be the same situation. I think it would be. I
I
think
don't
we
think
can
that. But I
probably
don't think
carry
that
this
they
law
should.
on.
You
We could
you you
probably.
shouldn't you shouldn't be forced to do that.
I mean, you're already forced to an extent to take care of that child, but like if there's no other option, like there's no other kidneys around, or literally nothing else that the fetus or that the baby could use, or the child could use to continue their life, I
The
would say
mother
sure,
should
the
be
mother or
forced.
the
The mother
father.
should be forced to cut out or use her bodily organs in order for that
The
person to
mother or the
survive.
father or the guardian or whoever, no other circumstance, there's no other option, then I'd say, sure. I mean, we've society have agreed that
All
mothers
right,
do
so
have some specific obligation to take care of their child.
you're pro mutilation. Okay, all right.
Pro mutilation. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
you're forcing the mother to mutilate her body in order for the kid to survive.
Would you consider that mutilation?
I mean, yeah, you're cutting out the
I
kidney.
don't know. But would you not agree, though, that mothers and fathers have a specific obligation to taking care of their child that isn't
Are
really
they for it? But
replicated with anywhere else in society?
I mean, I could have a parent that's dead to me. They wouldn't have that obligation. You know what I mean? At
I
that
think they
point,
should.
it would be you would be able to equate that to the relationship that you or I have, like where we were strangers.
If the parents are dead to you, then I don't think they'd be considered parents.
I mean, they're still your biological parents.
Yeah, but I would say that if you have an adopted parent, right, they would fill that role instead.
And so they should the so with them being the adopted parent, they should still be forced to, give their body in order for their kid to
If there
survive.
was no other circumstance, sure. If there's
Ah,
no
pro
other
mutilation.
option to protect the kid, whether there's no other body parts that are in the hospital, there's no one else willing to donate, and neither parents are going to unalive, then sure. I mean, I think
So
everyone
so
can
police
agree.
so police are gonna break into their house. They're gonna strap them down and then mutilate their body,
No.
and that's perfectly legal in
Why
your
would the
eyes.
police be involved in that situation?
I
No.
mean, yeah, because they got to restrain her somehow. Like it's the law. I feel like police officers
But
enforce the law.
this isn't something that would ever happen though, because there's no hospital that just doesn't have any other kidneys. Like that's not an issue. Like there's plenty of body
And this
parts
is
that
in
can be
this in
used.
the scenario you raised
Then
would never
sure.
happen because
Yeah. Well, no, the situation I provided is actually something that's probably happening somewhere in the world right now. The situation you're providing, I don't really know if that's happening in the United States. I couldn't really
so. But
be
no, there's no
honest.
scenario where the woman has the baby and I guess is locked out and not able to seek out any other research. Like another woman could provide the nutrients or something.
Yeah, yeah, sure. There's probably a
If
situation
the,
that
now if
out
this is
there.
if you're talking about like an extreme survival situation, I think that those same laws that apply would they don't really apply in a scenario. You know what? Like if I was stuck on Mount Everest and I have to cannibalize my group, I'm not going to be charged for cannibalism.
I, I definitely think that would still be illegal though. Would that not be
I mean, yes,
illegal?
but so plane crashes. They eat the wait. I'm pretty sure this has happened. I'm pretty sure this has happened
Sure
where like
has.
they crash land and then they had to I guess eat some of the troop in order to survive.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it should be legal for you to unalive someone else unless you're already unalived. I guess that should be fine. But definitely something that you should
But
probably
no, but that's
avoid at all
happened. Like they
costs.
had to kill. They had to like sacrifice so that somebody else could. Um, they had to kill them in order for like the rest of the crew or whatever survive. Like they're not after they're saved. Oh, you're going to be sentenced to life in jail. You know what I mean? Because it's an
Yeah.
extreme scenario.
But I do want to distinct. I don't think that being forced to give up a kidney is really similar or comparable to pregnancy. Pregnancy is something that's natural, right? So in the circumstances you painted, I don't really think that's ever happened in the United States or ever is happening in the United States. Maybe sure it might happen somewhere, but in that I would say that's still not comparable, right, to mother giving birth. I'd say that the pregnancy and
But
giving birth
we
is a
already
lot more
established.
natural and something that's happened all throughout history. That's happened a lot more times when women are still continuously giving birth. I wouldn't say that women continuously wouldn't give up a kidney because it's completely different.
I mean, but you just said that like an adopted mother they would have to do that because of the motherly obligation. You already said you're pro that, so like you're pro
Yeah,
them
but
coming in and then
it's
like strapping the mother down. Oh, the mother's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But she's absolutely forced to, under your reasoning,
yeah,
and they have to cut out her kidney for the daughter to survive.
yes, in unrealistic circumstances, there's gonna be unrealistic effects. You're right.
Okay, so if you're doing that, then I guess by unrealistic standards, you're pro mutilation, and I'm I guess pro child neglect laws.
Sure.
All right. Well, I can agree with that. It's a pleasure talking to you. Have a great one.
You too. Oh, look, it's Prim. Prim, what are you doing, dude? Why are you taking so long? Hold on, I'm gonna drop you and re-invite you. I don't know what's going on. Beatrice, you have to request up if you want me to put you up here. You can click the button right next to the like the typing box. There's like a button. There's like two heads, and then you can click request. There you go.
Hello.
Howdy.
I'm here to discuss politics.
All right. What did you want to talk about?
So, what do you want to talk about?
I've been just talking about whatever anyone else wants to say. So like, there's been I think most people have been talking about abortion.
So, what would you consider your political wing to be, or political beliefs?
Well, I'm conservative. I'm capitalist. I'm right wing, definitely. But I wouldn't consider myself Republican because I think that description. I don't believe in political parties like that. I think it's kind of silly.
That
But
is a very good idea. Now, I will give my opinion on abortion. So, if I had a baby in my vagina and I wanted it out of my vagina, I think I would want that done. Because if I pay money for it to get out of my pussy, I would definitely do it.
you don't sound like your image.
What's that supposed to mean?
It sounds like it's a not someone named Beatrice.
My name is
Oh, there's
Beatrice.
another Beatrice. There's two Beatrices.
That's my friend. That's Beatrice. Hi. Hey, Beatrice.
Hi.
I missed you. We're discussing Donald Jesus Trump.
Oh
Amen.
my gosh.
I thought at first you actually were an old lady named Beatrice. Like you actually sound
I
decent.
am an old lady. I'm
We are old
51
ladies.
No,
years
not you.
old.
Not you. Not
I'm drinking.
not-
I have my Dr. Pepper. I have my Dr. Pepper with me,
Oh
not
my
water.
gosh.
I guess I'm just gonna let everybody up.
So,
Oh my
gay
god.
people.
Jay
I love
Shans!
I
It's
love gay
me.
people because I'm a lesbian, but I also love Donald J. Trump.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Hey.
Who's this dude? I can't even see you.
Can't see me.
No, I don't know who you're pointing the camera at. I can't. Like you're such a tiny little box.
That's Prim.
Can you not see my voice?
I can slightly see him. It looks like a ginger, not a ginger.
Ginger.
I am a ginger.
Oh, that's not good. Joking. It's okay.
What do you say?
Hold on, say it again.
Nothing. I was just joking. Oh look, Mary joined.
Hold it, Mary.
Hey Mary.
Yo, Mary, you're bad.
Prim.
Oh shoot, my bad.
Wow.
Prim, bro.
I'm about to drop you.
No, alright, I want to speak.
Hello.
Please
Hello.
drop him.
She just teacup. She joined and then just teacup.
Can you drop Prim?
No, shut up.
Why are you even up here? Do you want to give your political beliefs on like I don't know like
Yes?
economic state
I don't
of
like
India?
any politician.
Oh,
Okay, bye.
Sorry. Nice.
So,
Okay.
you just went to see my boy Jay Shans, his cute face.
I'm quite the attractive young man, if I do say so myself.
Hello.
Howdy.
Excuse me?
No,
I'm 48. I support Trump because he's a man.
he's a man.
Yeah.
What if it was a black man? Would you still support him?
Yes.
So if it was like Obama versus like I don't know, Nancy Mace or like a Republican woman like Marjorie Taylor Greene, would you still vote for Obama?
Yes.
Why?
Because I think men need to lead us and not women. We should stay in the kitchen.
What if that
Yes.
man's like really stupid? Like what if it's like an idiot or like somebody that's demented?
That's fine. It's still a man.
Wow. What if it's like a boy? Would you rather be like a 5-year-old boy or a 35-year-old woman that's like really smart?
Honestly, I think I'd pick the boy.
That's an insane
Thanks, Lynn.
take.
Marianne, you speaking facts right now.
You can hear.
Yeah, it's gotta be one of the most insane takes I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
Marianne.
I'd even pick you.
My
You're not
gosh,
that black,
I'm
but I'd
back.
pick you too instead.
Okay, got one vote.
Yo, what the fuck?
Why is she
I'd
back
pick
up here,
you, the
dude?
host, as the president instead
Yes.
of.
Why'd you pick my hot friend right here? Marianne, what'd you pick him?
A Red Sox fan thinks that we're the ones that are rage baiting and not the one that thinks that a 5-year-old boy would be a better president than a 35-year-old woman.
Yeah, I'm ready. Sorry. Have a good night.
Yeah, that was a dude.
You will meet the dumbest people in the world on here. I'm telling you.
Oh my god, I wanted to beef with Marianne Pussbottom. Let her back up.
Sorry.
Who can I beef with?
How old are you?
I am
Me?
They're all like middle-aged women with sunglasses.
What do you have against
Yeah.
sunglasses, Mango Man?
Mary,
It's just
calm
a
down.
pattern that I
Okay.
recognize.
So
Do you recognize the male
I
pattern
love-
baldness that's on top of your head?
I've got plenty of hair.
Yeah,
what are you
that,
talking
that
about?
hairline is
What are you
lovely.
talking about?
Your haircut low-key looks like Chicken Little.
Huh?
Oh, good one.
Anyways.
You're
Got the
49,
whole
by the
panel
way.
laughing.
So
You said we're 49. I said I'm 49.
I'm 55. Okay, so I personally am MAGA.
Me too.
The hell is that?
Make
America great again.
Oh my god, you don't know what MAGA is?
You don't
Sorry,
even
I'm
know what
not
MAGA
politically
is.
debate for real.
They're not debating. They're
I'm
here
MAGA
just to
too.
watch. I will not let them debate.
Yeah. You want one?
Oh, I love Swedish fish.
Mary, we talked about this.
You love my
can't eat
Swedish
through the
fish
phone.
guy right here?
No, he looks inbred.
Anyways, so
Good one.
my
What?
reasoning.
What about him?
Listen, please. My reasoning for being MAGA is
What do you think about
we
her?
are Charlie Kirk.
Bro, if you're gonna troll, at least be funny. Like, that is so lame. Like, genuinely so lame. Like, oh my gosh. And like, they're flooding, dude. They're like, oh, maybe Dave isn't gonna be like that.
Who? Davis? Oh, Dave.
Howdy, Dave.
Oh, Dave.
It's the same person. Maybe Dean Witherson.
Dawson Weather?
Yes, I'm a black woman.
I like the
Listen
music.
and learn. Dude, get these people out. I don't want you people in. It's like a bunch of like middle-aged blonde women.
Another one.
Let's take it.
Give me.
Please stop. Why do I hear my echo?
Who's Dean Withers?
Do you know Dawson Weathers?
I know of him.
Sorry, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Because you said I wasn't funny.
Okay. It's okay.
Nice.
Luke.
Ladies,
Oh my God, look!
is that Rob or Park?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
How do
both.
you know my name?
It's
Yeah, I
both.
do. Wait, how do I turn my camera on? Oh shit.
Oh, yes.
Which Luke is that?
So I'll say that, you idiot.
Oh.
What other Luke is there?
Yeah, the one and only.
The one that across the street from you.
What?
What?
Your neighbor.
Oh, Luke Williams.
Yeah, so are you gonna add me back or no?
I will.
Yeah, you better.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's just like black women empowerment music.
Wait, guys, can y'all tell Isabella Orloff to add me back?
Who is that?
She went to school with me. She went to my school, bro.
She knows
Thank
who
you,
I
Luke.
am. It's like basically like we got in an argument, right, bro? She was like, this girl stopped talking to you, or like this girl broke up with you. I was like, bruh, tell me why you're on FaceTime with Hamilton or FaceTime with Grayson Adams, even though you got a whole boyfriend, bro. Like, and then she unadded me on Snap after that. She didn't like that too much. Bruh, tell me why. Bruh, is it just me or her new boyfriend look just like Hamilton, bruh?
I'm back. I want to debate.
Who is
I want to
this?
debate. I want to debate.
Then
Is this
debate,
Emmy?
dude. Just debate. Like you keep saying it over and over. Just do it.
What?
Well,
this
who am I
Emmy?
debating? I need
About
someone to
him.
debate.
You're debating Mango Man.
Who?
Me.
Mango Man?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I am MAGA. Do y'all first of all, do y'all know what MAGA stands for? Because you didn't know earlier.
Make America
I do.
gay again?
That is so
Again.
right. So, yeah, make America gay again. So, yeah, I'm MAGA, but I
Yeah.
do.
No! Oh my gosh, dude. The live was canceled. Oh my gosh. Yes, make Luke and Prim and like some dudes in Prim's car. Can't say make America gay again. Apparently that's a violation. I could go live in 10 minutes though. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna be done.